Usually these types of awards, a new place comes in, they start, the honeymoon period, things are great. That's when you'll win an award. For us to win it 20 years later, and especially after numbers had dipped some and then coming through COVID and everything else.
Welcome to another lesson of East Main 101. I am your facilitator, City of Jackson, Tennessee Communications Director Kenneth Cummings. And for lesson 23, I am joined with the director of the West Tennessee Healthcare Sportsplex, Jason Compton. Jason, welcome in to East Main 101.
Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you on. I'm excited to talk to you about all things sports and sportsplex and baseball and all the things.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it. So, of course, we always start off by reading a bio. Jason Compton has served as the Director of Operations for the West Tennessee Healthcare Sportsplex since April 1st, 2019. Originally from Huntington, Tennessee, Jason is a proud alumnus of Huntington High School, class of 1997, and the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Education with a major in Sports Management and a minor in Business Administration in 2001. Before joining the Sportsplex, Jason dedicated 18 years to the West Tennessee Diamond Jacks, Jackson Generals, a minor AA team, say that 3 times fast.
I know, seriously.
A AA minor league baseball team in Jackson, Tennessee, including 8 years as the team's general manager. His extensive experience in sports management has been instrumental in fostering growth and excellence at the Sportsplex. In addition to his professional career, Jason has a strong commitment to public service. He served as the Madison County Commissioner for 7 years, 2015 to 2022, and currently contributes to the community as a member of the Jackson-Madison County School Board from 2022 to the present. Jason has been married to his wife, Autumn, for 20 years, and together they have 2 children, Carter and Chloe. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Compton, Director of the West Tennessee Healthcare Sportsplex. Jason, welcome on to East Main 101.
Thank you.
Again, when I first met you, you were at the ballpark.
Yes.
I got here when it was the Diamond Jacks. I got here in 2010. So a few years after that, they changed the name to the Generals, and the rest is history.
Right.
But your background in the world of sports management, first off, how did that happen? What sparked your interest in sports management?
Well, growing up, I was a huge sports fan. Just blood runs orange. I was a Tennessee football fan, loved the St. Louis Cardinals. Just love sports, which I kind of got it in a different way because my dad really wasn't that big of a sports fan. My mom, on the other hand, still to this day, watches every Tennessee football game, every Tennessee basketball game. I mean, and we talk about them after, so it was really her.
So is she a UT?
No, she's originally from Peoria, Illinois, and came down here, but she just likes sports.
Okay.
And I remember going to my first Tennessee football game back in 1990 when Tennessee played Florida. It was homecoming. It was my first game in Knoxville. And, it was a close game. Halftime, Dale Carter ran back the second half kickoff 100 yards, and I think Tennessee ended up winning like 45-3. And I remember being on campus and saying, hey, this is where I'm going to go to school. But I was always interested in sports, and kind of on the backside of it too, being, manager on the basketball team, on baseball team, doing scoring and all of that throughout my high school career. And, and then I kind of got really involved in the sport management by accident.
Okay.
Because again, I like sports. So, to me, what was going to be the easiest way to kind of continue a career in sports, and coming up in a small town, not a whole lot of those opportunities in Huntington, but, the people who were involved in sports were coaches.
Right.
And it was one of those, I thought, okay, I'm going to teach, I'm going to coach basketball, coach baseball, something, but that's going to be my career. So, went to freshman orientation in Knoxville. Parents dropped me off, went to Gatlinburg, left me on campus overnight for freshman orientation. And, I ended up in the wrong spot because I thought, hey, I'm going to be a teacher. So obviously that means I need to go to the College of Education.
Right.
Well, apparently I was supposed to have gone to arts and sciences, but I went to the College of Education, and again, I'm at this point, I'm just there.
Right.
I'm not about to get up
You're a
and
freshman
and just walk out and try to go figure out.
Right.
I was in the wrong spot, but while I was there, they started talking about this new major on campus through the College of Education, which was sport management. And a lot of different colleges, that was back when sport management was just kind of an up-and-coming major, one of these new things that a lot of colleges had started picking up. And some of them ran them through like their physical education, but at Knoxville, it's run through the College of Education.
You would think that you want to be a teacher, you think College of Education.
Right,
like
right.
You
would think, but I was in the wrong spot, and I just kind of listened to them talk about sport management and, things when they were giving those overviews. It was kind of like, hey, that's me. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay. So I registered for sport management classes and started down that path. And I remember my parents came and picked me up, and we were on our way on the 4.5 hour drive home from Knoxville, and they were asking me how things went. I'm like, oh yeah, it's great, no problem. Got registered for classes, we're all good. But I was like, oh yeah, and by the way, that whole teaching and coaching thing, I'm going to major in sport management instead. And again, just remember that this is something when this is kind of brand new, and and I don't know what was going through my dad's mind at that point, but whether if I was majoring in basket weaving or something along those lines, but it was. He still was like, well, what are you going to be able to? What are you going to do with that?
What are you going to do with sports?
And I was like, I'm going to be a sport manager. I don't know, but again, I had full support of my parents to do whatever. And
now you say your mom was a sport, so probably was that's cool for you.
Yeah, and I mean, and they also knew. I mean, I was again when I was on campus in Knoxville. I mean, you got to remember my freshman year at UT was 97. That was Peyton Manning's senior year. My sophomore year was T. Martin year. We won the national championship in football. And basketball team made the tournament for the first time in forever. And we had. Back then, you had back-to-back national championships in women's basketball. It was the heyday of of Summit's teams beating UConn, and so I was there because I wanted to go to UT, but I was also there because I was a huge UT fan, and it was just
time.
It was awesome. So, a lot of that just kind of happened. And, still, if you're going to be a sport management major, to be on a major college campus, D1, to have access to the resources that they have right there to be able to be a part of things, that you just can't do anywhere else. It really helped. I mean, we hosted TWSAA went back and forth for a few years of having sectionals, having sub-states, having all these different tournaments. And back when I was on campus in Knoxville, they were having sectionals. So the sectional tournaments we hosted in Thompson Bowling Arena in Knoxville on campus for boys and girls basketball.
Okay.
And so our sport management classes took on the task of we are going to run these things. So we hosted the TWSAA girls and boys basketball sectionals, and we hosted them like they had hosted NCAA tournament regionals in the past. So we had, and somehow I ended up like I guess I was a junior on campus. I ended up like over all game day positions, and I had graduate students coming and reporting to me. We had team hosts because the teams actually used the Vols and Lady Vols locker rooms, and
that's a big deal for high school students.
It was unbelievable. And I said, it was actually a disappointment for the teams that won the Knoxville sectional and then went to MTSU to play for the state championship after playing. It was. But that experience. I mean, we went out, we sold sponsorships, we got catering taken care of. And that was my first just dive into like event management, and loved it. I mean, it was one of those things that, again, I'm an undergrad, I'm a junior, and going through the classes, and somehow, some way, just kind of in charge of doing a lot of things, and then needed an internship, just like everybody does, to be able to graduate, and in in rural West Tennessee, again, not a whole lot of opportunities at that time, and still not a ton.
And at that level,
and especially to have an internship. Now, I mean, you can always go just for a Parks and Rec or something, but it was one of those. I really wanted this to be somewhere near home, and just so happened that a year or two before that is when in '98 when the Memphis Chicks moved from Memphis to Jackson, and were the West End Diamond Jacks, and I applied for an internship. And was lucky enough to get that $500 a month internship.
It was a lot of money back then.
Glad I was. I think my hours I ended up making like $1.75 an hour working that summer. But I did live at home. And worked in minor league baseball. I worked in the ticket office. Stephen Aldridge, who is now the SID and Associate AD over at Union University, was the original ticket manager for the Diamond Jacks, and I was his intern. And he and I have been great friends ever since. But a year after I interned, I had to go back to Knoxville to finish up, and that was when Union called Stephen and said, "Hey, we need you to. Would you be interested in being the SID over here?" And he said, "Well, sure." So he left the Diamond Jacks, and I had just finished that summer internship in the ticket office. So they called me wanting to know as soon as I graduated, if I wanted to come for a full-time position. I did, and
backtracking to your internship, how in 1998. Working for a team that just moved to Jackson, how is an internship how important was it, and how did it lead you to?
It's one of those that, sport management across the board, and this is true even now, and whenever I go and speak to sport management classes, whether it's at Union or at Martin or wherever, anybody that will invite me, it's one of those things that sport management majors then and now are not just competing against other sport management majors for jobs. Right. A lot of people want to work in sports, and that goes, people that have marketing majors, business majors, MBAs, communications,
journalism. I love shooting sports.
Absolutely. So but you have everybody will go to what they enjoy, but then if they are a sports fan, ultimately they would love to go if they instead of selling telemarketing and selling real estate, people want to go sell advertising in the FedEx Forum, or go sell for, especially now with the new stadium in Nashville being built. And so sport management majors have to compete against everybody. And the only thing that sets you apart is experience. And I tell you, that's huge to have that experience up front. And I still think that, Diamond Jacks, they didn't have to even they only have 2 or 3 internships available every year. Maximum we probably had, even over the 18 years I was there, is up to 4 or 5. And there's a lot of competition for those spots from people from all over the country. Again, there's so few opportunities. Not many people have something in their backyard that they can go and do this at. And we were lucky here in West Tennessee to have that. But got in and learning. Because again, running events in that stadium, whether it was a baseball game, but also the other events, concerts and everything else that we put on there. You really were running different businesses. We sold our tickets, but you also had your concessions business being operated. Yeah. You had a merchandising business being operated. The marketing side of things, running the social media that just kind of evolved as, from when I started in 2000 till
it was management.
2019. Just the way things used to be all paper to just evolving that. And then in minor league baseball too, the other thing was, we had to try to learn to do as much in-house as we could. Yeah. So I had to, I taught myself how to use Photoshop and create the signs on the outfield wall, create content for the video board, just because we just couldn't go out and outsource all of that. Right. Things that we could do great, but we had to teach ourselves how to do a lot of those things. And I always told our interns, just like I learned when I was an intern, I think my that intern year in 2000, I interned all summer, and I don't know that I saw a pitch of baseball. I was in the ticket office. I was, learning the business side of it.
Right.
But then over my 18 years in baseball and at the stadium, doing everything from running the ticket office to doing merchandise, designing all designing T-shirts and then selling groups and selling corporate sponsorships, and then learning a lot about the concessions operations and what that took. And I think it's at one point I'd figured out that I had been the PA announcer for a game. I'd been the game day host. I ran the video board. I ran music, ran the line score, did official scoring. Just
do it all.
I did. I was in the concession stand on school days when we didn't have enough work. Trying to grab and run registers. It's whatever it took. But then at the end of the day, then in 2019, when the opportunity to come over to the Sportsplex when Ricky Yates was retiring, it was one of those. The complex is different. I mean, we have 17 fields rather than one field,
right.
And things are more spread out over 70 acres. But again, we have concessions business, we have a gift shop business. The business side of things on running a facility and hosting events is very, very similar. And all those experiences that I had in minor league baseball kind of, I think, really prepared for what I have done and been able to do at the Sportsplex. I always say that, being at the Sportsplex, I'm actually hosting events for 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds rather than minor league baseball players who acted like 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds. So, in both places, as long as you kept mama happy, that's all that matters.
Those baseball
that
moms,
is all that matters. So whether it was a birthday party that we hosted at the stadium, you got to keep birthday mom happy,
yes.
and then you want to keep moms happy because the key in both places is that you want people to continue to come back.
That's right.
So keep restrooms clean.
Yeah.
Keep mama happy.
Mama happy, restroom clean, grounds looking
yes.
good.
So
speaking of the Sportsplex, recently the Sportsplex earned the 2024 USSSA Baseball Complex of the Year award, and Sportsplex here in Jackson joins previous recipients, and this is all from a press release that came out. Yeah. Cactus Yards in Gilbert, Arizona, the Louisville Sluggers Sports Complex in Peoria, Illinois, Public Sports Complex in Panama City Beach, Florida, and Hogan Park, which is managed by the City of Kent Parks and Recreation in Washington State. These are big cities, and Jackson, Tennessee is a big city. I consider it a big city now versus where it was a few years ago. We joined, our Sportsplex joins these big cities in a USSSA Baseball Complex of the Year. First off, how did it feel, and what was your reaction when you got the news about that? And then after that, secondly, how did you know you want to come to the Sportsplex?
Gotcha. So winning the USSSA Baseball Complex of the Year National Award is a huge deal for us. I mean, and it's a huge deal for us at the Sportsplex, but it's a huge deal for the city of Jackson, and in particular our just all of our employees and staff across the city. Yeah. I think the one thing that a lot of people don't fully understand is how we operate. Okay. The Sportsplex is ran. It may be the only one of its kind, but if not, it's a very, very unique situation where the city of Jackson not only built the complex, but when it was built almost 20 years ago, they committed to owning and operating. Okay. Most places, a lot of the other places, even regionally, have complexes, but the city a lot of times then contracts that out for someone to run it. Very similar to like what you would do with a convention center or something along those lines. But the city has really taken this unique stance that we're going to operate our own facility, and we can do things differently. But it takes a team, because out there at the Sportsplex, there's three of us that are full time. Okay. Ryan Blake is our tournament director, and then Vicki Gullett, our administrator, and myself, and there's three of us. But we have all the other departments that really put in work to make this thing happen. I mean, we can do everything. Ryan can get and have a tournament scheduled, and we can have everything rolling. If R.C. Waddell and the groundskeeping and Kyle Sisk and Jarrett Cabinets and all their guys out there don't do what they can do on fields, we don't play. Yeah. If the common areas, our 70 acres don't look like they are, people aren't going to come. And our fields are immaculate.
They're beautiful.
Those guys work their tails off to make sure that we can play and make sure that our complex looks as good today as it did 20 years ago. And we couldn't do it without them. We contract through the Jackson Officials Association for our umpires. Yeah. If we have a tournament of 100 teams and the fields are ready and the teams all show up, if I don't have umpires, we're not playing. And Mike Woods, our UIC, and our umpires, they do a fantastic job. And I mean, when you think about the number of games that they, if it's hot, if it's cold, they're out there. And everybody, umpiring's tough.
Yeah,
and
is.
I mean,
you got to deal with those moms.
Absolutely. And trust me, you're never going to keep them all happy when it comes, because everybody they see things from a little skewed point of view sometimes, but they do a good job for us. But then also the guys here in City Hall that, I've got upwards of 100 seasonal and part-time people that work for us, and Gina and Kelsey make sure that all the paperwork gets processed and all those people get onboarded. Debbie in accounting makes sure that everybody gets paid. Ben makes sure that all my vendors get paid. Yeah. Working with Zach and Montreal and Jamela on just doing things the way that we have to do to get the things that we need done. Yeah. You helping us get the word out on events through communications, municipal maintenance. Kurt comes out if we need if an air conditioning unit goes out, if a toilet needs fixed. I mean, he'll have guys out there on the weekend. I mean, he understands, and they come and they're so great to work with. I mean, I had Will up on a lift changing 90 light bulbs out this fall on, but again, it's a complete team effort. And then it goes back the support from the mayor and support from the council on what we're doing moving forward. Without that continued support, but I mean the fact that we have that, and it is important, the economic impact that we create for the city of Jackson is huge. Yeah. And but to win that award, just is kind of a testament for everyone. We don't win that without every single person that has a hand in making the Sportsplex a successful venture. Mm-hmm. And the last 2 or 3 years has been two to three of the best years ever for what we're trying to accomplish out there. And the day that we got the call, Ryan got the call from our regional director for USSSA, because Ryan was going to San Antonio to the national convention in December or in November, and he was just making sure that Ryan was going to have a sport coat or something, because he said he had an award to grab. And he's like, okay, well, what award is that? And he told them it was the complex of the year. So Ryan called me and said he just got off the phone with Frank and said, we won an award. And he told me, and I thought, okay, it came from Frank, so it's a regional. So I was like, okay, sweet, we beat Oxford out for an award. Mississippi, Louisiana, great. He said, no, the National Complex of the Year award. And I was sitting there because I knew last year that was Publix Park down in Panama City. Yeah. So here we are getting the same award that they received in Panama City and that beautiful complex that they have down there. And it really was surreal.
And Panama's complex, it's not like ours where the city...
Right. It's run by directors. I mean, again, I think we are one of only a few that have this. So, and you go back to thinking about that is, which makes that even more special.
Right. It's a testament to the work. To the team effort.
Right. I mean, it's the city of Jackson that makes this happen. Yeah. It's nothing that one person, that myself or that Ryan or Vicky. I mean, it's all of us that made this happen. And I just remember just kind of thinking back to just thinking, wow. I mean, because when the place first opened, I mean, it was rocking and rolling there for a little bit, and usually these types of awards, a new place comes in, they start, the honeymoon period, things are great. That's when you'll win an award. For us to win it 20 years later, And especially after numbers had dipped some and then coming through COVID and everything else to get back to where we have been. But, I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, 3 years ago we got up to about 900 teams, and that was a little bit higher than what we'd had in the previous 3 or 4 years. And then all of a sudden that next year, so 2 years ago, we get up to 1,500. And I was like, wow, all right. I mean, that was crazy. And then last year we hit 1,800. So in 2 years we've gone from 900 to 1,800. And I mean, it's crazy because people used to ask me, what do we think, what's a good number? Where do we need to be?
Right.
And when I'm looking at numbers before I got there, and they were somewhere between the 700 and 800 teams a year, I'm sitting there thinking, if we could get to 1,200 would be good. And then it was, 1,500 may be the max.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, now we hit 1,800, and right now we're on pace with our registrations for the spring already that we're ahead of last year's pace.
Wow.
So when people ask me, and then we have some future, and I know we're going to get into it, some future renovations and things coming up. I don't know what that number really is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, it's been a lot of fun seeing what we've been able to accomplish in the last few years.
I can only imagine. So when you say 900 teams, 1,500 teams, 1,800 teams, it's a year-round thing.
Right.
So you don't have 100 teams coming in
right.
in 1 month.
How
typical schedule?
So typically we will schedule. We've been scheduling somewhere around 24 to 26 tournament weekends a year.
Okay.
So that's somewhere between 8 to 10 in the fall, and then somewhere around 16 in the spring.
About how many teams per tournament?
So right now our average right now is up around 80 a tournament.
Wow.
Which we will have some that will be we'll have 100 plus on a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And then on our slower weekends now, we'll have 60 plus. Where before, just about 3 or 4 years ago, our slow weekends we'd have around 30 teams.
Okay.
So now all of a sudden, a slow weekend is 60 teams, which would have been killing us
right.
before. But now we will have several tournaments. I mean, we already have a tournament. I mean, and here we are, early February, and we already have a tournament in late April that has 71 teams registered.
Wow.
So we will crush over 100 teams that weekend.
You think, baseball, how many, 11, 12 on the field at a time?
9.
9 on the field.
Yeah.
9 times 71.
Well, a team is somewhere, usually a team has about 12 players and 3 coaches. So usually about 15 people per team.
So if you think teams, 900, 800, 1,800.
But then the families.
The people and the families, that's a lot of people.
So last year, like I said, it was about 1,865 teams. And if you count people who, the fans or grandparents or, the paid tickets that came in, plus the teams, it was over 100,000 people that came through the gates.
Wow.
That now, about 40% of those are local. And we do see that about 60% of those teams are at least from at least 2 counties away.
So they're staying
and
at our hotels,
I think
more than likely if it's like
a lot. The ones we probably see about 35% to 40% that I can guarantee you they're not making those drives back and forth.
Right.
But even the local teams that play for us, the advantage that we have there is if I consider local Jackson, but also around like Lexington, Milan, Huntingdon,
counties,
Alamo, that they're local. But the advantage there is if we have them here, they're not going somewhere else.
Right.
So if we have teams in Jackson that are playing with us, they're not going somewhere else to spend money.
Mm-hmm. Keeping it right.
They're still spending money at home. They may not be filling the hotels up, but they're still staying at home and spending money rather than spending it somewhere else.
You got to feed them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, it really is a huge economic impact, and that's what kind of again makes that award so huge. I mean, as soon as we got that word, I started making a few phone calls. Talked to Kyle Spurgeon and Tom Hansen. I called him because both of them were heavily involved in the creation. I think they're the ones that just had the idea, and very few people. And I know this more than most. A lot of people have ideas, but they always want somebody else to take those ideas instead of acting on them themselves. Right. Well, Tom and Kyle had this idea, and at the time they had kids that were playing travel ball, and they made this thing happen. And I called them, and just they're over the moon about it. But then the timing was really unbelievable, because it was one of those things that one call I didn't make that I regret to this day was I immediately thought about calling James Ross because of obviously we're the West Tennessee Healthcare Sportsplex. Right. West Tennessee Healthcare has been the naming right partner of the Sportsplex since the beginning, and JR was instrumental in that. And we wouldn't be where we are today without JR. And I didn't make that call on that Wednesday, and I was going to make that call later in the week. And the next day is when we had the tragic news of his untimely passing. And I hate that I never got to tell him and to really tell him this, because again, JR meant the world to me. And but I have had the conversations with Ms. Prescott since then, and I think we've got some ideas of some things that we may be being able to do out the Sportsplex for potentially JR in the future. So, but the community misses him. I miss him, but he was a strong proponent of what we're doing, and that's the one thing that I hate that I missed out on talking to him about it. Yeah. But we just keep the numbers, it's been a fun few years. And I just, I'm glad that I made the move in 2019.
So tell us how you got from across the street.
Yeah.
You're at the ballpark, and now you're.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to move very far, right. But it was one of those that I had been in minor league baseball for, at that point, 18 years. Mm-hmm. And, it's a grind. It really is. And I've got two children, and still, I mean, they're 12 and 15 now, but at the time, I had a 7 and a 10-year-old, and I'm missing out on a lot of things, because I mean, it's one of those things. Minor league baseball during the season was a lot of work, and also I saw the Sportsplex as just an opportunity, because I knew what it once was. And and Ricky had announced his retirement, and there's very few positions around the area that if I ever wanted to make a move and still do what I do, there's not a whole lot of other opportunities. Right. And I didn't want to not at least pursue that position and then regret it, because whoever got there was going to have it for a while. Yeah. And I just I didn't want to regret that, because again, it's one of those things. At that time, I had been a county commissioner starting in for Madison County, started in 2015 after going through Leadership Jackson in 2011, mm-hmm. and really kind of before going through Leadership Jackson in 2011. I kind of like just staying in my hole, staying out of the way. But that opened my eyes up a lot, and realized that I had more time to do things for the community. And so then I jumped, threw my hat in the ring on Madison County Commission and joined that whole thing. First time in my life I had ever really been involved in any kind of politics. Okay. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed working. I enjoyed being on the budget committee. I enjoyed doing everything that we had to do. But then I saw the Sportsplex, again, knowing that it's a city entity, mm-hmm. that if I come to the Sportsplex, I can do what I know I can do, because I can run the facility, and I can do it for my community. I can do it for the city. I can do it for just not doing it for a private business anymore, mm-hmm. but doing it for the community. And man, I mean, I'm so happy that I was able to make that move in 19, and I still joke. I saw Ricky Yates. He came out there, I think, in the summer of 2020, kind of after things got rolling back from COVID. And I kind of joke with Ricky. I said, man, when you left, we talked about a lot of things, but I said, I still haven't been able to find that manual yet. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, well, I know there's a manual on how to run this place in the middle of a pandemic, right? And he just laughed. I said, that was my first full year, because I came in the middle of 19, but that next year having to deal and go through with all that situation, just like everybody else. Right. But then, now it's like, if we can get through that, we can do anything. Yeah. And, it's been fun, especially working with Ryan. I mean, Ryan runs great tournaments. We've got a lot of seasonal people that and part-time people who have been there for the entire time, which really is crazy. I mean, but they do such a good job on the concession side, on the gate. They know they've been through everything. And, a lot of times I just get out of the way. I mean, we just put people together and let them do their job. Right. And it really is. It's amazing to see how all this just kind of all works together. Everything comes together, and to have the impact that we have. I mean, out there at Exit 85, those businesses, none of them were there before the Sportsplex.
Yeah, so we talked about the past, current, present, what's going on now. The future of the Sportsplex, you have to say, Exit 85, I got here, I don't even know if Food John was out there at the time, but the Sportsplex and the ballpark were there. Yeah. But now when you drive out there, there's dirt moving every day. The
construction going on now, and the traffic that we have out there, I mean, obviously is a huge contributor to that, because none of that development was there before the Sportsplex. And when you have a built-in crowd 26 weekends out of the year, depending on weather, it makes that spot but I mean, the Sportsplex affects the entire town, but 85 obviously, and now to see the hotels, and you see Jonathan's restaurant, and you see the Casey's, and you see all these things popping up out there, and the dirt, like you said. I mean, there's something popping up new, a new sign or something popping up all the time. Now, a lot of that also has to do with Great Wolf, which I absolutely understand, and we're so excited about having Great Wolf come out and be a neighbor of ours, because I think it's going to, again, it only makes sense. Great Wolf Lodge makes the Sportsplex and Jackson a destination, where you look at the other parks, like the Publix Park down in Panama City. Well, they host these World Series and regional events because they have a beach. Right. So it's a destination location in July, when we don't really host a whole lot of things at the Sportsplex in July, because I mean that's only that time is for World Series. Right. And you really need to have a destination. Well, Great Wolf Lodge becomes that destination for us. And we are so excited about having them come on board, all the development around us. It just keeps people coming and having a good time in Jackson and coming back to future tournaments.
So a few things that you've done recently. One of the major things, I believe it was major, because as a photographer working, shooting baseball, softball, it's hot.
Yes.
I remember when you talked to council about the shade structures for those moms and parents out there. And then we have turf. I think you've talked about that. So these two things are big deals. So talk about that.
Right. So and again, the turfing project that is looks like it's coming to fruition. It wasn't a reactionary for any reason. Again, our grounds guys do a phenomenal job. Right. And so it wasn't, hey, that we need this now because this broke. No, they have done a phenomenal job for us, or we couldn't have been, we couldn't be where we are right now. But starting back when I got in 2019, that first year, because I kind of came in mid-year and kind of overlapped with Ricky a little bit, I was able just to go out and talk to people. So I had coaches and parents. I just walk around the complex on the weekends and talk and get some feedback on things. And first and foremost, shade. Right. There was no shade.
No shade.
And I mean, to the point where you know everybody's got to bring their tents in, which is great because you're going to do it anyway. But then you see people, I mean, literally setting by a light pole, and as the sun would move their chair around because that's the only shade. And so I started working on trying to figure out how to get shade structures up. And before, you know, we got that construction project done before last year, which again, I mean, it's, you know, coming through COVID and everything else, it timelines all change. But at the same time, the turf infields are something that, you know, for a complex our size to be able to really compete at the next level is something that we need to do. Because it does, you know, there are a lot of teams, especially in the AAA and major teams. So if you think about travel baseball, set up a lot like minor league baseball, where you have AA teams, you have AAA teams, you have major teams. We have a ton of AA teams that play with us, and that's kind of our bread and butter. And we love having the AA kids out there. But the AAA teams and the major teams, some of them have teams that have kids from all over the region that just get together on the weekends for a tournament. So they may have, you know, there may be a kid from Birmingham, from Gulfport, from Nashville, from Louisville, all on one team, and they all come together to play. So when they're making their schedule of where they're going to play, they only play in complexes with turf fields because they cannot afford a rainout. Right. Because you've got all the travel costs and everything else, they got to play that weekend. Okay. So we have teams that will actually drive through here and go to play at Oxford, go to South Haven and play. They're turf. They know they're not going to rain out. Or it would if it rains those games out, there was no chance of you got bigger problems. But and so, you know, we want those teams because, you know, in the same time frame, I think, you know, we had 1,865 teams last year here in Jackson. Clay Ritchie, who's the tournament director that runs tournaments in Oxford and Senatobia, Mississippi, he had a total of about 2,500 teams in the same time period. And Clay does a good job. I mean, they do a great job, but they don't run any better tournaments than what we do. The only difference is they have turf fields. Gotcha. And you know, so you really do, when you get to turf fields, you eliminate for the most part, unless it's just pouring down rain, lightning. Well, you know, lightning's the biggest deal when you have turf. You're still not going to play in lightning, but it eliminates those threats of rainouts. Now, we haven't had a whole lot of rainouts over the last several years. We had 2 this last year, but we had this last fall, but we had the 2 hurricanes that set over us in consecutive weekends. Yeah. But we have played, but we have lost some days here and there. We might lose a Saturday and play on a Sunday, or play Saturday and can't finish on Sunday. But we tried to get the tournaments in. The grounds crew did a great job on that, but it's a lot of work. We turf the infields. You kind of just have to wait till it stops raining, and then we can go. Gotcha. The other thing the turf does is that we become more multi-use on our fields, where we can play softball, baseball, move the bases, put a temporary fence up, and play different age groups on different fields. So, you know, where right now I may have a field open in Complex C that is for 13-year-olds only right now, but have a waiting list in our 12-year-olds, and I'm turning teams away because they can't play on that field. If I have turf, we can convert that field and play anything we want to play. So we become really, really more multi-use on that. So it's great, and it allows us to play those games. We get more chance at those World Series because of Great Wolf Lodge, because you take the weather out of consideration on those. And where I told you before, we're playing about 26 tournaments a year. We get to turf. We'll play softball through the month of July. We'll ramp that up to about 35 tournaments a year. Wow,
that's a big deal. So, the future of the Sportsplex, it's fun. In 2019 when I started here, you started. We were thinking future 2 years. Now with the award that you've gotten, all the teams and tournaments that you're holding, the future of the Sportsplex, what do you see and what do you hope to see?
Well, I mean, just the continued growth that we've had, attracting more of those teams that maybe haven't given us a chance just because of the turf. Okay. More tournaments, and then, you know, hosting those World Series and some of those regional tournaments in July, and seeing what Great Wolf brings to us. But I mean, if numbers wise, I mean, I think once we get the turf down, and we don't lose any tournaments because of weather, I think 2,500 team a year. So you're talking about in a short period now, potentially in a span of like 4 or 5 years, going from 900 teams in a year to 2,500 teams in a year. I think that is, and that number may be conservative. I mean, I just don't know, because we do other things too that goes into those numbers rather than just the travel tournaments. I mean, obviously travel tournaments are why we were built, and that's why we're there. But then also, we host the Jackson-Madison County School District's middle school baseball and middle school softball out there, getting ready to kick off in March there. Through Jackson Parks and Rec, we have the senior softball, which I'm kind of offended that they have a 40-year-old senior softball league, but it is what it is. But we host that. We host a middle school baseball tournament. We host the Sarah Beth Whitehead High School softball tournament.
Yeah,
we host, we have we've continued to host the high school softball all-star game. We have T-ball and coach pitch through Jackson Parks and Rec in the month of June that we host out. So we're hosting all these other things out there during the week as well. And, this is, and when the turf rolls around, I mean, you start eliminating chances of rainouts. I'm sure there's going to be some opportunities to host even more events like that, more practices. Yeah. Because I think before I got here, they didn't really do any practices on the field, and we do rent our fields out for practice now. And to me, if I'm getting people out to the complex on a Monday night, on a Tuesday night, well, when they finish practicing, they're probably running over to McDonald's or Sonic or Arby's and getting people out to that exit to spend money to the businesses who are located there because of us. It's not just a weekend thing,
right?
And we're going to continue to do everything we can to get as many people through those gates and out in that area. It won't be year round, but it's going to be, we get the turf out there, we can even do a lot more.
So I was just doing some rough math. 2,500 teams, 9 kids, 9 players on the team, 22,500. Multiply that by your average family of 4. Yeah. That's 1 million people.
Yeah. It's
just a rough estimate.
It's going to continue to just explode. I mean, it really is. We've been successful. We've had a really good last couple years, and there's no indication of that slowing down as is. Mm-hmm. And I really do continue to think that there's going to continue to be growth. I mean, just like everywhere in Jackson. I mean, not just because of what we're doing, but I think Great Wolf is going to play to that. Our population boom that we're going to see because of Blue Oval and all the subsidiaries. I think we're just scratching the surface right now, and I'm just happy to be a part of it and to continue to do what we're doing out there. But I think the tourism side, the hospitality and tourism industry in Jackson is getting ready to go to links that we haven't seen before.
Jason Compton, director of the West Tennessee Healthcare Sportsplex. You're doing an amazing job. We came in again at the same time, and I've seen the increase. I've seen your excitement whenever you reach out to me to get the word out. Awesome job out there. Thank you for coming on East Main 101. I appreciate you.
Enjoyed it. Glad to do it. And
when more teams come out, we'll have you back on. We'll talk
Absolutely.
about it. And I'll get Ryan Blake on here to hear his side of it as well.
Oh, yeah.
Jason Compton, director of the West Tennessee Healthcare Sportsplex. I appreciate you coming on. So before we end, of course, we always have, since this is an educational thing, I have what we call a pop quiz.
Yeah.
So it's 3 questions that I ask my guests, just basic questions, not really a pop quiz. So the first question for you is, for as long as I've known you, you've been connected with baseball. Is baseball your favorite sport?
No.
If it's not, what's your favorite sport?
College football.
College football. I take it. I think it's UT.
If I slice my hand open, you'd see the orange coming out. That's for sure.
Okay. Me being from Memphis, there's always been that little. So, but with our local Trey Smith. Played for UT. It was like, okay, I'm going to root for UT. And just now being here in Jackson, I know the love for UT football, UT sports. So It's there. There's a little bit because it's Tennessee. I get it.
Yeah.
Now, my wife, on the other hand, she's rolling tides all day.
Oh.
All day, every day.
She had a rough year,
She,
though.
now, she didn't go to, but she is an Alabama fan
Yeah.
to the core. And you also talked about how your mom was a sports person.
Yeah.
So my wife is, during college football season, she has her alerts ready before me. She is up ready to watch college football before me. I totally understand that. So question number 2, you've been in public service for a while. And of the 3, the city, working for the city, being on the county commission and the school board, of the 3, which has been the most challenging?
I think they've all 3 kind of, because in succession, have prepared me for each one of those. Okay. Challenging, I would say, as a county commissioner, as a young county commissioner, I think when I first got on was appointed to the commission and first elected, I was the youngest commissioner, and I don't think he was even close at the time. Now, luckily, that dynamic has changed, and Jay Bush and I were kind of the first 2 that really got on there that started changing that, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted on there. Okay. But, again, I was young, and there were ways that some people are set in ways, and it's always been done the same way for the last 50 years, and to get some things done that we wanted to get done, it was challenging. But I learned a whole lot from that. And then to come over and work for the city after working in private business and work for the city, but because I had some of the background on the county side, being on the county budget committee, it absolutely helps me when I'm looking at budgets as a department head with the city and coming and presenting and asking the council for stuff, because I was on the other side of that on the county commission. Gotcha. Now, school board is probably, trust me, it is a challenge. But it's probably been the most rewarding. Getting to work with Dr. King and the admin at the school system, and then with our my other 8 board members, and working with the school system right now through doing things that we're doing that we've never done before. Again, my heart is in sports, so chairing the district's athletics committee and really being a big part in getting the new stadium and track built there behind Omen, and the renovations at Omen and the things there. But again, it's because of what I do for the city at the Sportsplex that I can really contribute there with what we're trying to accomplish. But, man, I mean, just seeing the test scores come in and the strides that we've made, getting new Pope built, the new innovation center down in Melissus, I mean, that really has probably been the most rewarding position. And as Dr. King says, hey, we're not where we want to be, but we are getting better. And, I'm excited. I mean, yes, it's public service, and it's a lot of work. And, in a given day with what I'm doing at Sportsplex and then going straight to school board meetings at night and everything else, it's a lot of work, but it's some of the most rewarding work in all of those things that I've done, and I really wouldn't change any of it.
So the rewards definitely outweigh the challenges.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So question number 3, class of 1997.
Yes.
I'm not going to do that to you. You graduated high school. What was the vehicle you were driving, and was it your dream vehicle? If not, what was your dream vehicle?
So my first vehicle was an 84 Datsun Maxima. And I drove it, and it was one of those that would talk to you. Okay. So I would leave my lights on purpose because I would want it to say, and have people hear, because it would say, ding, your lights are on. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Wow. And again, it was an 84 Datsun Maxima. But then my fall or spring of my senior year, I got a Jeep Cherokee that at that time, that was my dream vehicle. Yeah. I loved my Jeep Cherokee, and that's what I drove to Knoxville for 4 years
that
after.
Was back when they had this.
It was a little box.
Angled box.
Yes. So my I don't even know what year it was, but it was a Jeep Cherokee that I had, and I love my Jeep Cherokee.
Everywhere. So my dream car when I was in high school was a 1997 1997.
A brand new vehicle.
Right, it was for you. 1997 Chrysler Sebring convertible gold.
Oh, wow.
I wanted that car so bad, and now my neighbor actually has it. And I look at it, you know.
He'll let you sit in it every once in a while?
No, not yet. But I just look at it, it's like, man, that's what I wanted in high school.
Yeah.
So Jeep Cherokee, that's what I drive now. It's not the box, it's the newer model, but my mom loves Jeep Cherokees. So,
Yes.
to be able to have one now, you know, I love it. I take it everywhere. I'm almost at 100,000 miles, and I got it in 2018.
Yeah, I drive a Dodge Ram truck now that's a 2011, and I'm pushing 230,000 miles on it.
Until the wheels fall
Absolutely.
off.
Again, to keep Mama happy.
That's right.
So as long as my wife gets what she wants, I drive the truck, and we're good.
We're good. I feel
Absolutely.
that. Jason Compton, Director of the West Tennessee Healthcare Sportsplex, again, thank you for coming on to East Main 101.
Absolutely.
And that does it for Lesson 23 of East Main 101. Don't forget to follow us on all of our government social media accounts and opt in to our text alerts by visiting connect.jacksontn.gov. And also be sure to visit eastmain101.jacksontn.gov to subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast channels to listen to each lesson in its entirety. But before we go, I forgot to tell you all there is homework. Visit our West Tennessee Sportsplex website and just check it out. And if you have teams, come on out to the Sportsplex. When tournaments are coming on, come on out to the Sportsplex. Support local businesses. Support our local Sportsplex. Support the teams that are out there. And just come enjoy some baseball. I love baseball. I enjoy it. Come check out some of those teams. So that does it again for East Main 101, Lesson 23. And until next lesson, class dismissed.